All right, Akim, Shalom, Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Makakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone for teaching us his truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Aquath may listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Raquai, and back in here with another quick and always an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I just wanted to go through a little snippet on on the screen. I have it says a nation of workers and not thinkers, right? So I kind of just wanted to touch on a little tangent that, something we discussed at camp on Saturday. And essentially, one of the brothers in the camp, he kind of spoke a little bit about, his, I guess, area of expertise, his skill, so to speak, right? And I kind of just wanted to touch on that, because a lot of our people go into these, different schools and, they go into these different schools and they think they're gonna get some type of, star-spangled, glorious education when they go there, right? But lo and behold, a lot of our people don't know that a lot of these schools, they were funded by, different, how do you call those? Like different organizations that gave out a lot of money, essentially, to kind of essentially push forth their doctrine and their understanding and their essentially, I guess you can say, their way of living, and what they essentially what they want to do is for you to be indoctrinated with what they want you to know, rather than you learning about how actually the world is, right? So let's give me 1 second. Okay, Salaki, I just wanted to get my laptop fired up real quick. Okay, so what I want to do, I wanted to discuss something called the General Education Board, right? So one of the books here, I'm just referencing real quick, excuse me, it's called the $1 Trillion Conspiracy by Jim Mars, but I'll do a link in the description, and in the description. And it says, so this is page 200. So it says that John D. Rockefeller Sr. was more concerned with shaping a new industrial social order than providing a useful education. The Rockefeller Group demonstrated how gift giving can shape education and public policy. So right now, here you have, these elites. They're essentially, what they're doing is giving out, gifts. As a matter of fact, let me get that. But before I proceed too much and too deep, just bear with me on this 1 second. Okay, let's see. Okay, it was verse 8. Okay, this is Exodus chapter 23, verse 8. And it says, "Thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blindeth the wise and perverteth the words of the righteous," right? So this is, this is what happens when you accept, gifts, right? And this is what they understood, this is what this is one of the tactics they used essentially to put forth and push forth their understanding into a lot of these schools in America, right? So this is one of the quotes, and it says, "In our dreams." So this is a quote by Frederick T. Gates, right? So he is one of the ones that's spearheading this board that is funded by this group started by the Rockefellers, right? So it says, "In our dreams, we have limitless resources, and the people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding minds," right? So, get that word, docile, just for edification's sake, all right? So it says easily taught, quick to learn. It says to show, teach, cause to know, to make to appear right, submissive, easily managed, tractable, right? So that's the mindset of these elites, and that's how they want us, right? That's how they want you Israelites. They want you to be easily docile and be easily misled. It says obedient, ready, and willing to teach, right? And a lot of our people go into these schools thinking, it's, you're going to receive some glorious education, and then lo and behold, you realize, you spend hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars, in tuition fees and textbooks and, other things that might pertain to the curriculum and so on and so forth. And then you have very little understanding, as to who you are as a people, right? So continuing the quote, it says, the present education conventions fade from their minds and hampered and unhampered by tradition. We work our own good will upon grateful and responsive rural folk. We will not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers, or men of learning, or men of science. We will have not to raise up from among them authors, editors, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for embryo great artists, painters, lawyers, musicians, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of whom we have an ample supply. So essentially, what they want is to they essentially want to dummy people down. let's just be honest. That's the mentality of these elites, and this is what they do and push forth their they're using gifts to actually put forth, and they're pushing this on different universities, especially in America, to teach what they want you to know, right? It says, one second, there were some couple schools that they mentioned here. Just bear with me on this. It says, okay, so here's just a little bit on the General Board of Education. Excuse me, it says the General Education Board, right? So it says, created in 1903 to dispense Rockefeller donations to education. By 1960, it ceased to operating as an entity, and its programs rolled into Rockefeller Foundation. In 1917, the General Education Board made $60 million grant to Columbia University to create the New Lincoln School, a private experimental co-education school in New York City. It says, hold on. So it also supported education initiatives and support the University of Chicago, right? So that's kind of mostly it. I wanted to just get on that, but that's really the point. That's really the point. The point I wanted to get was their objective is to essentially dumb you people down. Their objective is not to actually make you people, especially Israelites, because it's mostly our women that are actually going into these universities and actually trying to get an education, and on top of that, they boast and also in that education, right? And thinking that they have some sort of wisdom, right? They don't all build these different isms, feminism and sexism and equality, and these schools become a breeding ground into essentially, and what they are is they're polite indoctrination camps. That's really what they are, because they don't actually teach you Israelites, about who you are and who your heritage and so on and so forth, right? That's where the prophets actually and the apostles come in, right? So, but our people go into these schools thinking that, and a lot of us, even myself, felt this pressure because, if you come from, because we don't know who we are and because we discontinue from our heritage, like the scriptures say, we don't feel like we have anything, right? So what happens is there's a lot of parental pressure to push, our children into these schools and acquire an education. You might have had some family members. They probably had a farm at some point, and then their parents, sorry, their children, they had to grow up and go and study abroad, and they did. Then they have children, and they come and settle in countries like America because they think America, is like that pinnacle of wisdom and understanding and of better opportunities. But then you really realize that it's just a breeding ground for destroying yourself, right? So let me just get a point here because other people go into these schools and they don't understand that it doesn't actually satisfy you. You're drinking from a cistern that is broken, that is not quenching you, right? So this is Isaiah chapter 55 verse 1, and it says, "Ho, everyone that thirsteth, come ye to the waters, and he that hath no money, come ye buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without price. Wherefore do ye spend money for which is not bread, and your labor of that which satisfieth not? Hearken diligently unto me, and eat ye which is good, and let your soul delight itself in fatness," right? So this is part of, when you come to come across a camp or come across videos or the apostles channels or whoever, the objective is to actually give you an understanding about, who you are, who your enemies are, the prophecies that happened, what happened to us as a people, why are we in this condition, and the prophecies that are going to take place on the earth. That's the kind of meal that you're going to get, right? And it's speaking in a parabolic sense about, come and buy wine and milk and, all these different delicacies, because that represents the things that you're going to go, essentially, you're going to digest that, with your mind, right? Let me get, hold on, there's a precept in, I think it's in 2nd Ezra, just bear with me on this. Wisdom, 1 second. Okay, so 2nd Ezra is 8 and 4, and it says, so answered I and said, Come then down, my soul understanding, and devour wisdom, right? So this is what, what we calling you Israelites, to do, right? And that's the objective of actually seeing the different camps and out there. But, Israel, is very, very stubborn and stiff-necked. And on top of that, because we don't look very well dressed, they kind of take us, essentially for a joke, right? That's why the scriptures say that, the Lord would laugh at their calamity, because they're in a very mocking spirit, because they see us, we look like regular men. We don't look very distinguished, like the professors you might see, in these different schools. They might be more well dressed. They might speak a little bit more eloquent. They might use, big vocabulary, big words. They might have, essentially what they do have is a look, right, that sells that they actually have understanding, right? But there was even a president that said, for example, a thorough understanding of the Bible is worth more than a college education, and the president actually said that. I don't remember. I believe it was Roosevelt, right? Fact check me on that on the comments. But yeah, but that's really the point here, that our people, they essentially they disregard the words of the Heavenly Father, and they drink from these cisterns that can offer essentially no understanding about who they are as a people, right? Let's go to, where is right? Because our people go into these schools and they think that it's you get some kind of wisdom, right? In these different schools and so on and so forth, right? This is Sirach chapter 39. I'll start at verse 1 and I'll just read down a little bit. And it says, but he that giveth his mind unto the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, right, and be occupied in prophecies, right. So that's something you're not going to learn in these schools. I want to tell you straight up firsthand. You're not going to learn prophecy in schools. You're not going to learn about the different kingdoms that Daniel prophesied about, or even this kingdom that is prophesied about as well, right? You're not going to learn about the wisdom of the ancient. They're going to teach you what they want you to know. And one of the things I remember being in school, one of the things they taught you was, they would talk about how civilizations, started with the Greeks, right? They go into the Greeks, they go into their, different philosophers and so on and so forth, right? And then we know, pursuant to prophecy and pursuant to the scriptures as well, that that's a lie. We knew there were kingdoms that existed prior to the Greek civilization, right? So it says, verse 2, he will keep the sayings of renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences, and be conversant in dark parables. He shall serve among great men, and appear before princes, and he shall travel through strange countries, and hath tried the good and evil among men. So like we're going to go into the ways of our forefathers, right? And that also there also you would find exhibits and examples of wisdom as well, right? With the things that, for example, I'll just use King David as an example. The way he dealt with King Saul, the way he displayed different character traits like integrity and composure and so on and so forth. They learn about the ways of our different kings, right? And that's what brings back that what's that called? That essentially that illumination, right? Being illuminated in righteousness, right? As a matter of fact, it says that in Baruch, right? Because when people hear that word, they think you're part of some so-called secret society, right? Like, but you can be illuminated in righteousness as well, right? That's what the scriptures actually says. As a matter of fact, let me get it, just so you don't believe I'm talking out of my, making things up, right? Where is Baruch? 1 second. Okay, let me just go here then. 1 second. Okay. Okay, let's go. Okay, Baruch 4:2, and it says, "Turn thee, O Jacob, and take hold of it." So actually, I'll start at verse 1. It says, "This is the book of the commandments of the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and the law that endureth forever. And all they that keep it shall come to life, but such as leave it shall die. Turn thee, O Jacob." So essentially, you Israelites, right? "Take hold of it, and walk in the presence of the light thereof, that thou mayest be illuminated." So there's nothing wrong with being illuminated. The scriptures say that, wisdom maketh a man's face to shine, right? So if going into colleges and universities was essentially the path of wisdom and understanding, most of our people would be shining by now. But our people belong, like the scriptures talk about, the congregation of the dead, right? Because they're drinking from a broken cistern, right? They're not actually taking on and learning of the ways of the ancient and being conversant in the dark parables and learning about who they are and so on and so forth. Only a select few are doing that, right? So let me go back to Sirach 39, and it says, okay, this is verse 5, and it says, "He will give his heart to resort early unto the Lord that made him, and will pray before the Most High, and will open his mouth in prayer and make supplication for his sins," right? So we understand we're in this position because we sinned against the Heavenly Father, right? So, and this is these are little things that these these schools, I don't want to say little, but you know what I mean. These are many different facets of different things that these schools are not going to teach you. They're not going to teach you the importance of prayer, you know, who you are according to the Bible, your biblical nationality. That's another thing too. There's a huge confusion in regards to nationality. That's another thing. You know, a lot of you Israelites think that the borders that you're confined to, that you were born by, is your nationality. And then you don't understand nationality. It goes back to a bloodline, going back to the seed of your father. You know, it's not by the confines of the actual, what's it called? Of the actual landmass you were born on, right? So, you know, for example, you know, Paul describes himself as a Roman, you know, but however, he also described himself as an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin, right? So, you know, there is a difference between, you know, a citizenship and a bloodline, right? And these are like, I don't want to say these are dark sayings, but these are wisdom that is essentially is hid from, you know, the eyes of this world, right? This is not something that's perpetuated in these schools. Now, what I will say is, you know, if somebody, you know, if you're a brother and you have a practical knowledge of, like, for example, like, you know, a knowledge of like a trade or so on and so forth, right? You know, there's nothing wrong with those things, right? If you have like if you're, because I used to be a gardener, so if you're good at what's it called? Not carpentry, but carpentry is an example. But there was another one I was thinking of, landscaping, or for example, you know, you work with your hands, right? So I'm talking about blue collar work like plumbing, you know, so on and so forth. Like those are, you know, those are important skills, right? So I'm not knocking that aspect of the education system. However, what I am knocking is the fact that, you know, a lot of people go into these schools thinking it's going to be essentially going to teach them something of substance and something of value, when it is actually quite the opposite, right? So that's the part I'm really knocking as well, right? And on top of that, they're teaching you what they want you to know, and essentially what they're doing is they're dumbing the children down, right? You know, for example, a lot of these children in these schools, you know, what another thing that's that they're pushing as well is they're pushing, you know, that alphabet agenda, you know, in these different schools, right? And they're not teaching them, you know, the simple things, like actually, you know, okay, a child, you're either born a boy or a girl, right? But now it's all these different genders, right? So that Babylonian wine is something that they're spilling into these schools, and they're also wanting to push that on other countries. And we know that pursuant to the scriptures, you know, that's why one of the reasons a lot of these nations are they're going to be mad at countries like Babylon, aka America, right? Because they're pushing those philosophies upon those other nations, right? Going off on a little of a tangent here. Let me just read a little bit more here, then I guess I'll just end it off. And it says, verse 6. When the great Lord will, he shall be filled with the spirit of understanding, and shall pour out wise sentences, and give thanks unto the Lord his prayer. Right? So actually, you know, this this chapter is good, but I just wanted to get this quick account here. Crud. My laptop just died. Just bear with me on this. Okay, this is Luke 2, verse 40. I started 45. Verse 46. And it says, and it came to pass that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting amongst doctors, in the midst of doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions. And all that heard him were astonished by his understanding and answers. And when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said to him, Son, why hast thou dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I sought thee sorrowing. Right? So this is his parents speaking to Yahushua. And it's verse 49, and he said, And he said unto them, How is it that ye sought me? Wist ye not know that I must be about my Father's business? And they understood not the saying which he spake unto them, right? So that's really the point here, is the fact that, when Yahushua was teaching, what he was teaching was confounding these people of, that actually have some kind of wisdom of this world, so to speak, right? And that's kind of the spirit we come in as well, because we don't come in the spirit of like looking the part of essentially confounding a lot of these things that these people know, because a lot of the things that they know is only limited to the confines of their specific area of expertise, right? And the scriptures talk about that we have an unction from the Holy One, essentially an anointing from the Holy One to know all things. So we go into, the prophecies, the dark sayings, we learn a little bit about herbs, we learn a little bit about the land and the land Sabbath, the importance of the law, the understanding that, some foods are not meant to be eaten because it maintains essentially a cleanliness, right? Like for example, like oysters, they actually filter out the water that's in the oceans, right? But what do these people do? They farm these things and they take these things out of the ocean. They disrupting the natural order of things, right? So so that's part of understanding this understanding the truth and understanding the importance of the law as well. The law is very, very needed on this earth, right? And what these people do essentially is going down, starting with these elites, right? They push forth a vibration of disorder, right? And that trickles down into the average, little Israelite, citizen of these different nations where they're scattered, so to speak, right? um, I think that's pretty much it. I know there was another point I wanted to make, but I think I forgot. But I guess I'll just close it off here. But I hope that this lesson was edifying, right? I just wanted to bring on this information because I thought it was very, very interesting, right? And you could see the dynamic of the way things are changing, right? This LGBT lifestyle is being strongly pushed upon these children, right? And allowing these PDF files to be in the schools and so on and so forth, right? So anyways, hopefully this was edifying, and I'd just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim El Shai. Until next time, I say Shalom.